Devin Hughes, Kim Schmelz, Katie Glass, and Corey McLaurin with On You.
Man, what's up, man? It's so good to see y'all. We're doing this.
Yeah.
Yay.
We are doing this.
So you guys, I was on LinkedIn the other day following my favorite LinkedIn influencer, Devin Hughes. And I came across this quote about happiness and how it resonated with me. And the quote is, when you can align what makes you happy with what helps the world around you, you can live an exuberant life. And to me, it really resonated. So yeah, I think that everybody, when we say that happiness is a choice, it's something that we all have in common and that we believe. When you look for what's good about what you do and how you're serving others in any job you have, whether it's giving women the confidence in the clothing store or waitressing. I loved waitressing. I always thought, what if this is a really special occasion for somebody? And if I give them really good service and make them really happy, I could make their anniversary. Or what if this was an awful day and I'm the only person they're going to talk to the whole day and I give them companionship or show them kindness? I just really don't think it matters what you do. It's just about finding how you're helping others and how you're serving others and how that makes people happy when they're helping other people. And I think finding ways to serve others and live your best life is important. And now I work in higher ed, and that's a very obvious service, helping people get their education. But I don't think it matters what you do. I think that if you find ways to serve people in any job, that you can live an exuberant life.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. And I love that point about your the waitressing too.
So I wonder, do you think most waiters and waitresses realize that they have the ability to affect someone's day by the joy they bring or the smile or the engagement? Like sometimes I think we abdicate or discount how much power and influence we can have over others, to Katie's point. You know what I mean? It sounds like Katie kind of self-actualized that. Like that was her sense of meaning. Like she wasn't just serving food, she was like serving joy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've loved it.
Well, and I'm sure the good ones do notice that and do realize that, but that is a good question of how, I mean, if people know how valuable they are in each position they have.
Yeah. Or I thought sometimes too, like, what if this family saved for months to come here and eat? Because one of the restaurants I worked at was a nice restaurant. I'm like, I have to make it really special for them. Like, this is a big deal for them. And I can't imagine taking away that gift from their family and their kids that they got to go out and celebrate something, or this is the one time they ever got to come to a restaurant like this.
That's interesting you say that, because I grew up pretty humble means. We didn't have much at all. So to eat out was a big deal. And, to stay in a hotel was a big deal. To go on vacation was a big deal. And so I wonder, like, to your point, Katie, whether you're in front of a classroom and are you just teaching? Or are you serving outside? I think in general we use terms like, well, she's just a teacher, or she's just.
Sure.
And I think we had to get away from that. At least I think so.
It's in fact, to that point, so my background right now and at the software company that I'm at, I'm a full-time trainer. And I oftentimes am coordinating these massive global meetings, trying to bring people in who are experts in certain types of, software or something like that. And someone said to me the other day, just kind of casually talking, and he was like, Corey, I don't know if you realize that at the company, you really have inspired a lot of people. He was like, because when you do your meetings, you're not sending out meeting invites. You're like sending out experiences, and you're bringing people into an experience. We've never been on a call where people had music playing or did all these little sound effects in between topics and all that. And you're really creating an experience. And I don't know if anybody's ever told you this, but you're inspiring a lot of us to change the way we do things. And I was like, in fact wasn't thinking about that, because I never go into it to say intentionally like I'm going to create this experience, but it's just a natural part of me. I love bringing people into where I'm at, like I want to make sure everybody's feeling good just like I am, even on when they jump on and when they leave. I want them to take that energy with them. And so it's interesting that serving up the joy, and it's not just being a teacher, it's not just being creating marketing things, right? It's you're creating things that are bringing these positive emotions out of people and them into an experience and bringing all of that there. So yeah, I really love this.
Yeah. So like, so somehow, Katie, you found your meaning, right?
Yeah, in every job I've had, like someone's like, "You're just so lucky that you've liked your jobs." I'm like, I don't think it's luck. Like, I think that if you truly love helping people, no matter what job you're in, people need you for something. That's why your business exists.
Right.
So when I was there, one of the things if you don't recall, I said to you is people are going to look at you and go, I'm just not Katie. Like you came out of the womb with like happy sauce, not realizing that it's a choice and you have to work. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they like just
Yeah, definitely.
They make a bunch of presumptions about your mindset, like, oh, I'm not like Katie, I'm not like her, not realizing that you made the choice and you make the conscious choices to create and sustain. And I think that's the power in that people are missing, that they don't, I mean, it's like, it's you live on earth too, like you're not immune to what's going on.
Yeah.
You just find the opportunities to look for the good too, and to find meaning in whatever you do.
There wasn't joy every day in waitressing. I mean, there were some moments where I had to choose to love that job. Same thing with my job now. Not every day's perfect, but there's an opportunity in every day.
What did Sean Achor said in one of his books, or quote from one of his books, was, "You can't being a rational optimist is." I'm butchering that quote. I do not know it word for word, but it's an assessment of the present while remembering that what you do does matter. Like you can change, from that mindset, but you can't sugarcoat. Like if it's not a great experience right now, that it's okay that it's not a great experience, but it doesn't mean that we can't change the outcome of that experience, which is so real. And I don't know what that quote is, but if I find it, I'll say.
We should invite Sean. We'll invite Sean to our next.
Can we just pull him in? Yeah, Devin, you got his pager, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it's essentially right. So I think people have this like false dichotomy. Like they think happy people don't feel, like we're not, like we feel all the same stuff that you do. We don't discount that it hurts or it's emotional or I'm struggle. We just don't want to stay there.
Yeah,
we have
exactly.
a choice, right? I mean, happiness doesn't mean we don't have any problems. It means we feel like we can be okay regardless of the problems, or we can do something about the problems.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like you keep complaining about the weather, like go get an umbrella, go get another coat. like I don't need you to remind me that it's cold in Wisconsin. Like we know that,
right?
Like so, like you know what I mean. And those kind of people, you're like, well, like I don't. It gets frustrating sometimes to realize that.
It does.
And I think it's that whole lens, like where he does talk about the lens for which you view the world. And yeah, I mean, you can talk about how it's raining every day, or you can talk about that you do have a coat to protect yourself from the rain or whatever. I mean, finding gratitude in those moments. And I think that's what I learned so much from
so how
Sean's
do you
book.
how do you balance that and not make it seem like to the person you're interacting with that you're ignoring the not so good moments? Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes someone will talk about an issue or a problem or something, that isn't inherently feeling good, right? And I think sometimes we have, I think there's a balance, right? And correct me, like if I'm not presenting this right, but like there's a balance where you let them, right, kind of talk about what issue it is, and spin that optimism around it without also discounting how they're feeling in that moment. Like how do you balance that with and I don't know, I'm always constantly going back and forth, and I'll be talking to different people and interacting, and that's oftentimes some of the pushback I'll get. I'm like, oh well, you know what, I'm not actually discounting what you're thinking, because it's valid, right?
Yeah.
I'm just also adding in and sprinkling in some some sugar on it. But it's I don't want them to feel like their points are invalid either.
I
And so I'm
think
always fighting back and forth. Go ahead, Katie. Yeah.
that's the moment where you draw on other positive emotions. I think when you sprinkle joy on it, it can seem like that. But if you sprinkle hope on it, or how Kim said, gratitude for something, that those
Mhm.
are different positive emotions that can help the situation. Because you're right. If you sprinkle joy on everything and it's like, yes, it's only, minus 20 degrees in Wisconsin today. Yeah, that seems a little like you're a crazy person. But if if you come at it from, I'm grateful I have a coat, I'm hopeful it's going to warm up next week. Like
Yeah.
I think that there's different positive emotions you can draw from that make your feedback more genuine, not just sugarcoating.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that.
I think too, I mean, I started my professional career in politics. So like I was writing back to people who were complaining to their legislator, basically. Um, and my boss was really good about like relating to them, like understanding their concern in a way of like, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. Here's kind of where, where we want to go though. So it was almost like yep, I see it, I see your problem, I see the issue, or I see your concern, but then here's how we want to move forward in a more positive way. So I think, like, I don't know, I take a lot of that experience with me in this too.
Yeah.
That's good. I'll say this. So, like, I don't think most people understand where thoughts come from. Like, we're not born with thoughts, they're based on experiences. So, I mean, depending on how you grow up, depending on who you surround yourself with, helps develop your belief system,
Yeah.
right? Right. So, that's the reason I say that is, so if someone to me comes in like, well, I don't understand, you always seem so upbeat. Well, I said, let me explain. Like, I'll take them to a place. I think that's why Brene Brown's work is so powerful to me on the vulnerability. Like, because don't show me a superhero. I can't connect to that. I wasn't valedictorian. I wasn't the king of the court. Like, take me to a place when you didn't believe, when you struggled, and tell me how you got out of that place, and I can
Yeah.
connect to that. So if you take me to that place and show me what you do when you have those dark moments and how you have to struggle on the things you do, like Katie said, maybe write down what your gratitude, maybe Kim works out, maybe Corey spends time with his family, like whatever modality you use when you have those dark places, I think it provides context to people to go, oh, you mean, okay, so what you're saying is like, it's a choice, but there's some things. And I think where most people miss the mark on this, like they get the what, like I'm better when I feel better, like positive, but they miss the how, which is Katie, what
Right.
you like. So tell me what you do. How do you parent? Like what conversations do you have? How do you do performance reviews, or how do you for the front of the classroom? And I think that's what you kind of start to show people that, because I don't know about you, and I don't want to keep talking. I didn't get the secret sauce to happiness when I was a youngin'. Like there was no Mr. Miyagi or no Obi-Wan Kenobi or some like guy in Star Wars who's like, oh, here you are, young child. Here's the secret to bliss, right? We didn't get it. And so I
Right.
laugh at that, but how many thousands of hundreds of millions of people are just like us who didn't get the conversation too? And so I think this is why this work is so powerful, that you can start to influence people just having these conversations and sharing. This is what I do. Do you know who Sheryl Sandberg is?
Asking
Yes,
for all of
I
us.
love
Yeah.
her.
All right, Facebook, right? So her husband many years ago passed away on a treadmill. Do you remember that story? He
Yes.
died, maybe I don't know, it was a heart attack or stroke or something. Corey's left the building. Maybe.
No,
Still
my
there.
internet's acting
That's
up, so
him.
I gotta save bandwidth, so I had to cut off the camera.
Okay, so either way, I'll be quick on this. So when
Yeah.
Sheryl Sandberg was grieving, and she was with a guy named Adam Grant, and he was kind of counseling her, and she was really struggling, obviously, because she was, obviously her husband passed away. He said to her, "Well, Cheryl, it could have been worse. At least Dave wasn't in the car with your newborn when he had the stroke, and you could have lost your child too." In other words, he put it in such a way, like he framed it in a way like it could have been much worse. Although it didn't discount it, for her at least, it let her realize it, like even in him passing, it could have been it could have been much, much worse because he was supposed to drive the child somewhere that day. I'm not saying that's a silver bullet, but it's just interesting how different people need different things from different people to compartmentalize and say, you know what, I've lost my husband, but at least I still have my child here. And that's going to be something I'm going to hold to and be a memory. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting what different things take people to different places, And I think one of the things that's interesting to me right now, I want you guys to weigh in, is during COVID-19, certain people are going doom and gloom, and other people are doing new things with family members and having meals and singing songs and board games and going for walks that they never did. Are you finding that or hearing that too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, so in some ways it's interesting to me that in that some people are going to come out closer unit, or maybe you're going to enjoy that time and make the most of it. I don't know. It's just interesting to me of the choices we make when bad things happen.
And I think too, like I've seen some of my colleagues and some of just some people that I've worked with that have gotten so creative. And I feel like some of that is because they finally had time to like think, where it's not just going and going and going. It's like, oh, I actually have time to like process and get creative. That's been really inspiring for me to watch.
How when you create time and space to be intentional about something, that's when it happens, that you need to do that.
Yeah. So I kind of reference it like this. I ask people, like, did everybody brush their teeth today?
Are you asking us?
Yeah. Did you, Kim and Corey?
I did.
Right, because there's something called hygiene, right? Like,
Sure
and
is.
I'm not kidding, but I mean, like, you wouldn't go a day without doing it. You wouldn't think that was
Yeah.
absurd, right? So if you know that's so obvious, why don't more of us have happiness hygiene? That's
Good
the
point.
that's the intentionality you're talking about, right, Katie? I mean, certain things you do. So if being
That's
in
good.
a good place,
That's good. I'm here. I'm listening. I'm here.
Just
So-
fixing computers.
That's good.
So Corey, when you were asking me or asking us, not me, about how do you explain it to people, I just put it in those terms. Like, you would never go 3 or 4 days without brushing your teeth, would you? They look at you absurd. Well, if you think that that's so important, then are your emotional well-being, is that not as important? And so that,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm just a simple guy, a simple fellow that not put things in context that way. And I find that people go, yeah, you're kind of sort of right. Like, so I don't know,
Yeah.
something to think about.
Then do you talk about like what those practices are? I mean, do people understand what you mean when you say your happiness hygiene, or do you talk then about working out or, gratitude journaling or whatever it is?
No, so I'll illuminate and give them some different things that you can do, some different options beyond just, and different things. I mean, for example, some people enjoy cooking, some people enjoy music. Like, if you know that that's your like sweet spot, then I'm like, well, then why wouldn't you be more intentional about doing that every day?
Yeah.
If you need to rock out for 5 minutes on your playlist, then rock out. And so when you
Right.
get people, so those are just conversations that I try to have, and I try to put it in context where people go, yeah, you're right. I do need to do that. And so for me personally, I think that's where people miss it. Like, they're looking for, I mean, they get the concept. It's just like,
You just
otherwise,
we haven't been trained to think that way. I think
no, I wasn't.
I think one of the other things that I feel like I was trained very, I grew up in a house where there was 3 kids. We were a really busy family, and we used the phrase, there's never enough time. And I watched this after I finished my master's program, and I constantly got the question, how did you have the time? I could never do that. I don't have the time. And the TED Talk is all about how time is elastic and how when you make time for the things that are important, there's more of it. And that's exactly how I felt. I never felt like, sure, there were more weekends at home, less late nights, but I never felt like I didn't have enough time to do all the things I did before I started that program. I didn't feel like I missed out on any big things, because when you take the time to make time for what's important, it's always there. And yeah, I'm trying to find the name of that. It's Laura Vanderkamp and How to Gain Control of Your Free Time. And it's a really good TED Talk.
Was that, Katie, about like prioritizing too? Just like if you make it a priority, you'll do it? Yeah, I love that one too.
Yeah, so there's an old quote that goes, you can either find a way or you can find an excuse.
Sure.
Right. So, I mean, if it's important, like you would never be late to pick your kids up from school.
No. Well,
right. You wouldn't make your mom wait. Well, I hope not. Right. You wouldn't make your mom wait at the airport. Right?
No.
So it's funny, I guess, to your point, I'm building on what you say, Katie. Like if it's a priority, you'll treat it like it's a priority. And your brain will recognize it. If it's not, you'll come up with a myriad of different excuses why, I just don't.
And it was a huge mind shift for me going through that experience, because prior I glorified busy, I'm too busy to do this. I can't do that. I'm so busy, busy, busy. And it made me feel important jam packing my day. And then when I went through that program and had to really prioritize just the abundance of time that we have that we don't realize, like I went from thinking I never had any time to, oh my gosh, I have all of this time. And how do I want to use it to get, the most out of every moment and balance family and work and home? And instead of feeling all of a sudden like I didn't have any time because I was doing this program, I felt like I had more. It was a very interesting shift.
Do you still have that mindset now?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely really do now, because I really do feel like I have more time. With just there's more I wanted to do before, and now some of those things that I wanted to do aren't there. So I feel like I have a lot of time to do what I want to do right now.
And I think after watching that, or maybe we just talked about it, Katie.
I think we did.
Yeah, it switches how you say things too, to being like, I'm too busy for that, or like, I don't have time for that, to where it's like, that's not something I'm willing to prioritize, or that's not how I want to spend my time right now. And like putting it in just that different phrase, how that helps, I think, both the receiver of who's asking you to do something and just yourself of being like, it's okay to say no to some things, or yes, depending on if it's a priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. So it's interesting because I feel like we have the glorification of busy right now.
Yes. Oh, I did. I fully admit it. I was like the queen of, and I have to do this day and this day. And isn't that great that I'm going, like just crazy. Yeah. And it really came down to, and if you talk about our experiences, I was always afraid to say no. Like I was, if I say no to them, I'm not helping them. If I say no, will their feelings be hurt? And I just packed every day. And in my mind, I told myself it's because I was doing nice things for people and doing what they wanted. But then I was missing out on all of these things that filled my cup that I wanted to do for me. And no one was happy. I didn't want to be where I was at those Tupperware parties and
nothing against Tupperware.
So that's interesting, Katie, right? Because you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So it's almost like your cup was like almost being depleted because you were extending yourself in so many different places, and you couldn't be the best version of you to support others because you weren't you have to make choices, which is fascinating.
And I think a lot of people are there. I don't think I was alone. I'm not alone in wanting to say yes to everyone and doing things that make other people happy and not focusing on what fills my cup. I think that's common.
I've been guilty. Like someone's like, hey, can you do? Yes, I can. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's do it, guys. 20 hours later, and I'm like, man, I was like, I could have said no to that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's almost like you need boundaries, or like, because like in psychology there's something called compassion fatigue.
Mm.
And compassion fatigue is if you're like trying to be that person to so many people, like it's just exhausting to you emotionally, and you can't, like, it's almost like you're depleted, like your battery's running low. So it's interesting you say that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Compassion fatigue. I actually have not heard that term
I haven't either.
today.
So,
Look at,
well,
yeah.
I'm going to look it up at 3 a.m. tonight when I'm like,
Well,
What, 3 a.m.?
you'll notice it in people who are like, very altruistic and give, and then you'll start to notice they start to burn out, or they're not the
yeah.
same version of themselves because they've just depleted themselves so much, like you're saying, and you just can't sustain. You need time, like, everything. Sometimes things work better when you just unplug them,
Mhm.
Right.
you know? And I think it's the same thing with us emotionally sometimes. Like, sometimes you just need some me time, and even if it's just a walk or meditation or just
Compassion fatigue.
just
Man,
some.
and I like that you pinpointed a name for it, right? Because I even recently, not, I mean, if I go back to even when you were talking about COVID a little, I think that I'm one of the ones that definitely was like, well, this is interesting, and that turned into, well, okay, so it looks like things are changing. So how do we adapt? And have definitely been trying to be intentional about teaching my kids that. However, what I've noticed though, since I am here all the time now, and most of my interactions are happening like on this medium, there I am oftentimes giving away more time than I should, or people are calling me, and especially at work, I just get a call. Hey, I need to talk. I don't know what to do. And I want to be that dude. I want to help,
Mhm.
and that's like where I start to gravitate to. However, I've noticed that I will get depleted, and I can't really pinpoint where that's happening at what, like, man, I got a full like 9 hours of sleep. Like, why am I feeling so drained? And it's that now that you point that out, I start to feel drained when I've hit that, when I've depleted the compassion, right? I don't know if I'm saying that right, but you know what I'm trying to say. But
Yeah.
anyway, then I'm noticing now, as thinking back, I start to get, when I get to those moments and that tank is empty, and then people start reaching out and they're looking for some compassion or something like that, I don't have it to give. So now I'm like a weirdo on the call with you. Like, I don't even want to be on the call with you. Why are you calling me? Did you, you know what I mean? Like, it happens, and I'm glad you brought that up. It's very true. It does happen.
Are
And
you a
then,
pretty empathetic person too, Corey? Yeah. So, I mean, I think that would have to do with it too, because you're like just taking in all of that.
You're right.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, I mean, if you look at the research, right? I mean, the brain can't discern between data. It just takes in data, right? So if you're hanging around people who are traumatized or burnt out or negative or salty, what do you think the brain starts to discern? That's my new normal, right? You're going to just soak up all of that like a sponge, right? I mean, just like if you watch negative news, you hang around negative people, you listen to negative music. I mean, so
Yeah.
like when I tell people, like, you didn't come out of the womb negative. I mean, you could give a newborn a spatula and an iPhone with no battery. They wouldn't know the difference. They'd be happy and right. But then you got a 12-year-old in Madison who's got a boat and got wave runners and got all the toys, and they're miserable,
Right.
yeah, that's good.
right?
That
So
is good. So what would you say is some of the easiest things that people could be doing, especially in this current state of uh, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, what the next new, you know, wave of things are going to be, and how we have to start guiding ourselves around this pandemic world that we live in right now. What would you say?
is that to me?
Yeah. Or anybody. What would you
Oh,
guys say? Like, what are some of the easiest things people can be doing to not be burning themselves out or depleting those areas, that we've kind of hit on here and there?
so I'll tell you real quick. So what I do, and this is just for me personally, I didn't come this far to come this far. I like I didn't. So like this is, I've had adversity in my life, which you all have, right? And I got through that. I'll get through this. So it's these like quiet conversations that you have with yourself, a little bit of self-talk. So that's the
Yeah.
individual. Like I didn't come this far. I'm gonna figure it out because that's just who I am. We'll find a way. Then the second is I put things in context, right? Like we had 9/11. We've had other outbreaks. We've had like my time my brain goes, we've had other calamities or other disruptions, and we got through that.
Yeah.
So if I got through that, I can get through this. That doesn't
Yeah.
discount that it may be hard, but it gives me okay. And I think if you look at the research, all the brain needs and people need is a couple data points.
Mhm.
Like if Kim can do it, then Katie can do it. And if Katie and Kim can do it, then we all can do it. If Connie can do it, then Southwest. Then that's just a conversation I have with myself. And then the other piece is I'm going to build on what Katie and Kim you said. I'm just working on me every day. Like I'm just
Mm.
finding ways to find joy in turbulent times, whether it's walks or gratitude meals or conversations or rocking out to a new song or my buddy hit me with a text message, it's got a funny meme. Just finding moments in chaos and just keeps me. That's what I do.
Katie and I had a conversation. I don't know when that was, Katie, not that long ago, just about how we like to like write nice notes or like give little gifts, and how sometimes that feels like we feel selfish almost to the point where we're doing that, where it's like, this makes me feel so good to do this because I feel like it's going to make their receiver really happy. But I think it just goes back to that. Like if we, like if I know even writing Katie like some nice note is going to make her happy, like that keeps me going for the day, just because I want that feeling, and I know that feeling, I guess.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm going to agree with all of that. I heard it all. I was listening. I was here.
In addition to like the good things that I like to do that keep me going, I
Mhm.
really to bring this back to our best friend Sean. There's a chapter in his book, A Big Potential, that talks about creating moats and defenses from negative information. And I've
Mhm.
always loved the news. I'm not gonna bash journalists. I think most of them truly want to cover what's happening in a non-biased and informative way. I'm grateful to know what's happening in the world, but sometimes it's so negative that I limit how much I watch on the news. I limit how much time I spend on social media where people are complaining. So I'm trying really hard lately to focus on the things that bring me down and cut those out of my life and do more of what makes me happy. So while it's important to fill my days with all the good stuff, I'm like, where is it at in the day that I'm like, oh, I don't even, and some of those
Yeah.
moments are like after being on Facebook for a half hour. Like there's a lot of good, but there's also bad. And so just limiting my time on social media and spending more time on things like LinkedIn
Yeah.
make a big difference.
I think for me and the kids, we arts is music. Like we oddly and very weirdly, but unapologetically gravitate to so much different kinds of music, and that's really like our thing. So we're either like trying to make some, or we're just. My daughter's like, "Hey, I found this new French artist," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, shoot it over to me. I found somebody in Germany, or we're listening to classical music together." And for us, that's kind of like our zone, right? Like that's our zone, and it's the ability to like some of it I'm not like nah, kind of the new school stuff. I'm kind of like nah, but I still find joy in being able to connect with them over their music. And then it's funny because then the stuff that I don't like in the beginning I end up liking more because there's more meaning behind it than me just finding it, searching around. Like my son loves it, and that's how we're connecting. So in a roundabout way, now I love it, but it's so much more than just that like 3-minute track. It's a way for us to connect and kind of get out of everything else that's bombarding us with information on a daily. So
Have
It's
you?
that, oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. No, I was going to say, have you noticed um, with the political thing kind of heating up in the fall here? Like, is it? Have you noticed like any instances with people that you have a relationship with a different tone or tenor, picking sides? I'm just
Yes.
okay. I was just
And
wondering.
it's exhausting.
It
Yeah.
is
If you
exhausting.
disagree with people that you love and care about, it's yeah.
It is so frustrating sometimes, or like what bothers me, and I'm just gonna speak from this like truth within my mind is like there are a lot of people. I was a pastor of a church for a very long time, right? And then I left, and now I'm doing the whole software training thing, and it bothers me to watch people attack people for their views, and I'm not with that. I just don't like it, and it bothers me more when you are a leader and you have a platform. You know what I mean? And you have eyes on you, and it just like. And I might not even agree with that person's viewpoint, but when I see them getting attacked, now I'm jumping in like, no, hold up, like leave them alone, man. You know what I mean? It just the whole political space, and I mean, I guess it could go anyway too. Whether it's politics and who's running for president, Black Lives Matter, right? Like all of that's happening right now is it bothers me that people don't let people be people right now. Let them have their views and don't just go in and attack them for those views. Like really listen to them. You don't have to agree with every point, but you gotta let people be people and speak their mind and how they feel, man. And I get so tired of watching, the attacks back and forth. To your point, that's why I'll just delete my Facebook for a few days and then come back on, check in with people, and stay connected. But yeah, it gets on my nerves, and I try not to be superhero, Captain Jack, I mean, trying to save the day, but I can't sit and watch, people arguing over the things that to me like really don't matter at the end of the day. They do, right? That's not to discount some of the stuff, but I think we're focusing in on all the wrong points sometimes with these things. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox with that. It has been, man. I just hold that thought.
So Katie, you were kind of is it friends or family that have
Oh,
taken
and
okay.
they're new friends and old friends, and views are coming out that I don't want to say surprised because I didn't ask. Their point of view is different than what I thought it would be. And maybe that's because I want to project what I think on other people, like, oh, we agree on everything. But it's been hard. It's been, especially with the people who are really close that I'm never going to cut out of my life. And our views are dramatically different. It's not just a little bit, it's not just let's agree to disagree and be respectful. It's I don't know if I want my child around you when you're saying things like this, like
Oh,
really deep
wow.
stuff. Yeah, so it's hard. Yeah.
Kim, you found that too a little bit in pockets?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. I I it is. I agree with Katie. I mean, I think, when your family or even close friends or just people that you're surprised have such different views on things. Yeah, it does make it difficult. I don't know. I guess, yeah, trying to go back to just find what we can like relate, how I can relate to what they're thinking or trying to find perspective in some of it. I don't know. I just said to my husband the other day, we were driving home and starting to see yard signs and all of that. And I do admire people for running for office. Like, I think it's very difficult to not only be elected, but to just run for election and put yourself out there. So I admire like their courage. I think it's just gotten to the point where it's so difficult to then stand for what you truly believe in some of those arenas once you get there.
Well, I just noticed like Michelle Obama spoke last night, right? Whether you like her or Democratic, but take the politics out, like to me at least, like she seems like a reasonably good human being, right? I mean, I don't have any obviously I don't know her, but based on what I've heard, like she's got a track record, well educated, well articulate, and just the hate bombs on social media about her. I was like, wow, you just like we just can't get out of that space, huh? Like you just can't treat her for being, a female, lady of color, mom, and all the buckets that we all value. But no, she doesn't fit so I gotta tear her down.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I saw on the opposite side of the spectrum, and I don't want to make our show political, love Michelle Obama. But when Donald Trump's brother died, how awful people were. And I just couldn't believe the comments that I was reading. It just blew my mind. Like his brother just died, and
I know.
whether or not you like him or not, to say that he deserves it somehow is just, I don't know. It was awful to read some of those comments too. Just a lot of hate.
Yeah. That's
all
what I'm
around.
saying. Yeah. So the reason I bring it up for me is like, how do you stay above the fray in a world that's just in a place where we're just it's so easy to tear down, degrade, complain, just throw hate bombs around. I mean, you don't really have to try that hard. I mean, it's out there. You just kind of fall into it. So I don't know. It's just interesting for me, like how do we and others stay kind of above the fray emotionally in
Yeah,
the
but
world?
still engaged. Like
Yes.
there's some people who are like, I'm just done. I'm not voting, nothing. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't think that's, in my opinion, a good alternative. So how do we stay engaged but not 20 feet deep in mud?
Yeah.
Well, I think about you two because you keep hearing Wisconsin is a swing state. So I can't imagine what the dialogue is in Wisconsin, like just all the stuff in the system. Not to get political, but just, we're there and like,
Yep. I think the politics are, if we're talking about happiness and seeking it and positivity, the politics can play a big role in combating that pursuit of happiness. So it's relevant.
Which is funny because the pursuit of happiness is literally a part of the founding documentation of this country.
Yeah.
But you can find there are some things that are happening. I think I was at church like maybe 6 months ago, and one of the congressmen came and spoke at the church, and I was like, man, this guy is fun. Like he's cool, and I've never seen a politician in that light before, because I usually only catch them in 30-second clips out on the internet somewhere, and God forbid I read the comments, then I'm going down a rabbit hole. I don't let me get out of here. But
don't read the comments.
Don't read the comments, man. Yeah, even if it's not your video, don't read the comments for sure. But yeah, no, I did not start voting until recently in my life. And when I mean recently, I mean like within the last 3 years. First time I'd ever voted. But I never grew up understanding the importance of voting either. Of course, you hear it here and there. You get taught it at school. However, it's not something that, most of the people in my family couldn't even vote if they wanted to because of their backgrounds and the stuff that they grew up and having to deal with. So it's not like they were passing on to me, you need to go do this and here's why, so it wasn't until I met someone here that kind of started talking to me through the whole system and how it all works and why I should vote. And so now I'm like, okay, I can vote. I can do this. I should do this. It's good to have that. Okay.
I'm so glad you did, Corey. That's exciting. Like
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
somebody
still
talked you
feel like
into
I'm that
it.
guy who shows up at a football party and doesn't still know what the line of scrimmage is or what players are, yet he's with a group of people that are like, yeah, I really like Johnson because he's great, and he was like, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah.
And I'm like, I like the color of their uniform.
Yeah. Kim, at least his uniform and like not costume or hat. Or
That's awesome.
I think I did refer to uniforms as a costume once, and
Listen, and I am that guy.
Wrong
I am
audience.
that guy. I will show up at a football party and I don't know what's going on, but I will fake it till I make it. Listen.
You're there for the companionship, for the fun.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a chat from me?
Yes, I got the news link. I got it up here.
Just sometime look at it, because you talked about the news, Katie. It's fascinating. It talks about the research behind how the news affects our belief system, and not the good or bad, but you can, depending on which news channels you watch, can absolutely influence and you not realize it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it suggests is that some people, again, you can call them self-actualized, like they'll watch multiple news channels, from other countries, just to round out their palette of sources so they don't get stuck in this very myopic, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have a book recommendation if you haven't read it. Hopefully I don't. So there is a book that I read, funny enough, and I say this to everybody.
I'll just share too. So the good news I found was on Good News Network. Have you guys read this site before?
Yeah.
Goodnewsnetwork.org. There's so much good news on here. Oh my gosh.
Great.
Yeah. The article I found that I really loved was about a restaurant in Alabama that basically you just leave whatever you can. You come and eat and leave whatever you can. They don't charge like a price for anything. And how they've dealt with it through COVID and just pack their meals into go boxes for people. And I mean, then related story is how John Bon Jovi is doing the same thing. So it was just fun to read. Yeah.
Why is it that we don't spend more time on that stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully now it'll keep popping up in my news feeds now that I've looked it up once.
Yeah.
I like global positive news too. That's a good one. I think there's a perception that it's fluff and it's not real, and you need to know the cold hard facts about what's happening in the world instead of learning about that type of stuff that doesn't, and not that I feel this way, doesn't matter, and it does. And how do we change that perception?
Yeah, but so it's interesting you say that, because you can't control COVID, but we keep talking about it. Why do you keep reminding me that really, I'm sorry. Last time I checked, I wasn't an epidemiologist. I don't have a research facility. Dr. Fauci, are you here? Dr. Fauci.
Oh my gosh. I have a barista. She can get you a cup of coffee.
Yes.
I don't see Deborah Burks here, guys. I don't know. What do you want me to do? Is there a reason why you keep bringing it up in the meetings? And we're you know what I mean? No.
Yeah.
Okay, Corey, tell us about your book.
Book recommendation. So The Hope Circuit by Martin Seligman. This one I gravitated to because shortly after running into all you guys, we should tell this story sometime too. I think we need to purposely tell the story about how we all kind of connected. But after going to the convention where we all met, or the training where we all met, I came home and had to deal with a lot of mental illness in my family. I just really didn't know what to do. But I thought it was wouldn't a guy who goes to a happiness course, to learn how to teach this stuff, would come home and have to deal with some of this. But Sean Achor in his book mentions Martin Seligman. So I started looking up his titles, ran across the Hope Circuit, fell in love with it. I really recommend it. One of the excerpts from it, he states, I and many of the practitioners and scientists in positive psychology came right out of work on misery and suffering. I devoted 50 years of my life to undoing depression and helplessness. I found that merely getting rid of the bad stuff was not enough. And so I advocated working on what makes life worth living as well. It is the presence of positive emotion, engagement, good relations, meaning, and accomplishment. Getting what is good in life entails a lot more than just eliminating what is bad. And man, I'm telling you, it's more of like kind of a history on where they started out in psychology and kind of helping people, but then it leads to present where that led them to. And the Hope Circuit is actually a function of the brain that they have now found, and showing what happens if we can learn how to trigger it when we need to, and where helplessness, the term learned helplessness actually is fighting against it. So the Hope Circuit is what they're calling this function of the brain that they've found. So it's a great book. I recommend it. And it has definitely been one of the ones that kind of helped me stop and think sometimes when I'm interacting with people, or seeing even, the mental illnesses that are running through my family, even being able to recognize what might be going on there. It's just been a great, great, great book. Great read. I recommend it. You guys should pick it up. Anybody should pick it up.
Awesome.
You can find it on my website for $6.99 right now.
That's great. Well, I mean, he's the father of positive psychology, so it's fascinating. I mean, literally out of University of Pennsylvania. I mean, he's like the grandfather where it all started. Like, it's fascinating because if you look at it, like, traditional psychologists study what's wrong, and then he realized, like how about studying how people flourish?
Yeah.
And that created a whole new, which is fascinating. I mean, positive psychology has only been around like the last 30 years.
Which is amazing to me. It's amazing to me that's, kind of like the new kid on the block, but they should have been given a chance a long time. There's like everybody was picking, who they want on their team for the basketball game. And the positive psychology kid was standing off in the corner. And someone's finally like, what about that guy?
This was fun.
It was
fun.
It was hashtag deep today. I love it.
It was.
Deep.
Oh, thanks for working through all this, Corey, with all of your homeschooling going on.
Yeah. And you know what? This is what we do. We do this. We just, the hardest part was going to be actually getting together to do this. Then we can keep adjusting and keep changing, keep evolving with it.
I'd love to talk about diversity and inclusion on a future.
Diversity and inclusion.
I like it.
Diversity and inclusion.
Too.
Yep, I'm down. See what you think.
Not anything that's dumb.
Like my question's like, should I give my pitch here? Should I talk?
That's awesome.
This might go down in history as our unaired pilot. You know what I mean? People are like, oh man, I found that the unaired pilot of I forgot what show it was.
All right, everybody, see you.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Devin Hughes, Kim Schmelz, Katie Glass, and Corey McLaurin with On You. This totally has to be a typo.